Hey,
Hello,
I'm Zach,
this is Adrian.
and we're with our transliness.
Yep.
This is our third discussion video.
Yes. And this time around, we're going to be talking about like how we fit in our families and how our families perceive us and how that changes over time. So this is kind of an important topic for us anyway, because family is like a pretty big thing for us.
Yeah. So.
Also, it's St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah. So
we don't wear green.
Yeah.
We're just all green all the time.
So we both wanted to start this by saying we're very lucky, and we recognize that we're really lucky because we still have our families. I mean, not only are our families alive and in our lives, but they're fairly supportive. We recognize that we're really lucky in that respect, and that not everyone has that. But we thought we'd just give some of our personal experiences and anecdotes and things like that about how family has changed, particularly since we're where we are at in our transitions, you know, not just coming out to our family, but how things change over the years, particularly. So
yeah, definitely. I think something that has been like an affirming part of both of our like transitional histories is that we don't have any brothers. So it was nice because my parents didn't have really any expectations in terms of how I should be behaving. They didn't have a son.
Like, I know trans guys who have brothers, and it can be hard for them to see how their parents treat their brothers versus how they treat them. And I think we both have, well, I have one sister, he has two sisters, and in a way, even if they treat us exactly like our sisters, we just see it as like that's how our parents treat their children. So it makes things a lot easier to not have to navigate that whole terrain. And then also, by having sisters, our families don't feel like they're losing their only daughters, which I think can help. And my family is sort of navigating how to have a son, and that's something that we've talked about a lot. You've had experiences with your dad where he's like, okay, I have a son now, what do I do?
Yeah. It's like playing catch up. Like I feel like that's how my father pretty much just exclusively my father views my transition is like, oh, well, I have wasted 23 years of your and my life trying to raise you to be a good woman. Now I'm just going to go like all out for how I'm going to treat you as my son, which is validating to a certain extent, but frightening for me in terms of how how much I don't really want to have all of the male identity that he wants me to have.
And I don't have that with my dad at all. I think he treats me essentially the same way. I mean, he also is the less supportive parent in terms of my transition, but my mom has said all these things like, oh man, we need to do, son things, and it's interesting because, I mean, she's trying to be affirming, but it's also, yeah, you're right, like, I want some of those things and I don't want some of those things, because in some ways you can never catch up, right. I'm almost 22, and I didn't have a male childhood, and I won't ever have had a male childhood, and there's no way to kind of catch up to that.
Yeah, not at 24 will I be having a male childhood. I don't even want one. Like, I value my experiences that I had growing up female-bodied, and I don't think my parents really get that. Yeah. Like, oh, you must have really hated your life. No, there's a lot of things I enjoyed about it.
And didn't like,
Yeah, and it was just whatever, and everyone has some degree of that they're dealing with. And even for my father, just pretty recently, he was like, oh, you inherited a gun from your grandfather. Let's teach you how to clean it and shoot it. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't like guns or violence. Yeah. Sorry, Dad, don't you know this?
Yeah.
Or he'll be like, we should go hunting. Like, I'm going to buy you a pair of, like, hunting boots. And I'm like, don't, because I will never wear them. Yeah. And I don't want to go hunting with you. And he had lectured me about, like, well, now that you're a man, and I need to teach you how to be a man, and you need to treat women the right way. I need to teach you how to do that. I was like, Dad,
you know how to treat women.
I already know how to treat women. And not only that, but, like, I just need to treat people the right way. But it's just things like that where it's like, I think at the beginning of my transition, I would have been like, yes! Like, this, they get it, this is great, they're being totally affirming. And now, like, I'm kind of like, this is super shitty. And that perception, coming from mostly the men in my family, is really, they're putting me into this really, really tight box. I don't like it at all.
I find that frustrating sometimes. The negative things that happen with your transition, even when your family is accepting, when, like, I am only somewhat binary identified. I would consider myself to be, I'm neither of us are completely gender conforming or buy into like everything about being a man. And so when people say, well, you're a man now, you need to do this.
Yeah, it's like,
or it's like,
it makes me just like, oh,
like
really?
you have to fit this role in
Yeah.
the family. And it's nice because they're being supportive, but it's also like, okay, I want to do what I want to do, and the whole point of this is that I don't go from one box to another.
Right, yeah.
I mean, not the whole point.
It's kind of just like moving towards an authentic self, and like however that happens. Like, if I want to shoot guns, that's cool. It's whatever. Women shoot guns too. It's not.
Yeah.
That's not like a totally binary thing either. But it's kind of like like it sucks because it's coming from a good place.
Yeah.
It's coming from a place of love. But it's also just kind of hard to swallow. It's like you don't really get it, but
But I think like things have changed definitely since we both came out. I mean, not only have my parents gotten more accepting. I mean, my mom started off pretty accepting and is like even more accepting. My dad started off not accepting, and now he's like begrudgingly accepting. He still says things that show that he is not fully like into this. But also, you just like it becomes this new normal. I mean, my family will make jokes about my transition. They're almost like inside jokes because it's become just like part of the fabric of our family. It's so strange to go from gender and being trans as being like the only thing going on in your life to now it's just sort of like an inside joke.
But yeah, there it has just become kind of a whatever, like it is whatever.
Even if your family is accepting, but particularly if your family is not completely accepting, you have these, like, chosen families that become a part of your life. I mean, like, I would consider us to be, in some ways, family.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Just because,
you're like my brother, man.
Yeah.
I adore you. Like, I like you more
than... moment.
I like you more than one of my birth siblings.
Yeah. So I think, like, there's this intimacy that is created through shared experience, and then also through this, like, understanding that other people can't have, because being trans is not something that, every person on the street understands. I have some unique experiences that I've had in my life, but other people, I could meet someone off the street or online who easily had those experiences, but being trans is just, like, such a unique experience that I think there are sometimes where I just, like, call you and I'm like, okay, I have something I can't really talk about with my mom, I can't really talk about with my girlfriend, I can't really talk about with my sister, like, they are things that, or, any other of my friends, because they're things that only you would understand.
Right, and I have, like, a very close group of people in my life who I consider to be blood, they might as well be, and who I, like, lean on and count on, and it's, like, a beautiful thing, and I love it, and, like, honestly, being trans, like, that's one of the best things I've gotten out of it, is like this really tight-knit group of people who like understand me through and through, and it's like I like cherish that. Like it's so good. It's such a positive thing.
And I think that a lot of times, like, when your family isn't initially supportive or when it's awkward or when they're trying to work through it, having those people to lean on was so important. And so now, even though our families are far more supportive than they once were, it's like you still have those people around that you depended on during that time. And
that's why having these support systems is so, like, it's just so important.
Yeah, because you can't always count on someone just because you're, biologically related to them or just because they raised you. I mean, like, we're lucky that we were able to, but not everyone can. And so having people who, care about you genuinely just because they care about you can be really helpful.
Yeah, definitely.